When I'm sleeping with someone new, I just close my eyes and think of you. When I'm sleeping with someone new, I can't help myself, I wanna get you. Still feel the way I feel when somebody calls you mine. Are you sleeping with someone new? Someone new, when I'm sleeping with someone new, I just close my eyes and think of you. When I'm sleeping with someone new.
Good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and Bula Vinaka. My name is Param Shivan, and I'm here in Sydney, Australia, by the way, and you can hear Lynda at the background there. Nevertheless, welcome to this live stream, and my name is Param Shivan. I reside in Sydney, Australia. Welcome to this live stream, and if you're new, please do consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, which is Fiji Indian TV, and please do like the page up here, which you can see. It's called Fiji Indian TV. So, good day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Bula Vinaka, namaste to whichever place you're watching this us from. So, with a keen interest and extensive experience in audiovisual, film, media and communication, my aim is to create awareness and moral values. As I proceed with this interview, please note that I do not condone or intend to derail any current political status in Fiji. Neither do I have any invested interest in any political party in Fiji. I wish to stay neutral, unbiased, and do not own or take any responsibility for the answers given today. My intent is primarily to promote awareness. Today in live stream we have such a wonderful person who is the MP from the Sodelpa party, the opposition party in the current Fijian parliament. She is Lynda Tabuya. Lynda comes from Condolences province and she is an Aitoke. Her education was from Yetsen, Adi Dakambau, born university in Australia, graduating in Bachelor of Laws and Masters of Laws from Washington University in St. Louis, United States of America. She worked as an assistant in lecturer at the University of South Pacific. In 2014, Lynda made a career move joining the PDP, which is the People's Democratic Party, as a branch secretary, and later she became the president of PDP. With an unhappy 2014 election, the PDP made a move to strengthen its allies with the Sodelpa party in 2017. In the 2018 election, Sodelpa was very close to the finishing line, with Lynda gaining the fourth highest votes amongst the top 10. To see if they can bring a change to the 2022 election and lead the country out of what Sodelpa probably believes, that the country is in dire straits. Please welcome Honourable Lynda Tabuya. Bula Vinaka and welcome Lynda. How are you today? Lynda, how are you today? Lynda. Hello, Lynda. Lynda's frozen. Is she frozen? Lynda is frozen. Hello, Lynda. Lynda is frozen. Lynda, can you hear me? Hello, Lynda. Lynda. Sorry, Lynda, you're online. You were busy making notes. How are you today?
Bula Vinaka Param. I'm just trying to get onto the page where I can see you.
You want to see me? Can you see me now? You can see me?
My apologies, Param. I may need to get off and log back on again.
Sure. Go for it. Go for it. Come back again. That's fine. I will be back, ladies and gentlemen, as Lynda is preparing to get in. As you know, it happens. Live stream in such cases. Those who are tuned in, welcome, and stay tuned as I bring Lynda back. And you know what the internet in Fiji is currently like, and let's see if she's back. And let me see. Give me 1 second. I'll be back in a second to bring Lynda back in again. So Lynda's dropped down. Where are you, Lynda? She's dropped down again. Okay, Lynda. Probably, what's happening over there? Maybe they've somebody's doing something. Here she comes back in again. You are back, Lynda. Are you there now? Give me 1 second. I'll get you on board. Lynda, let's see. Yes, you are there. Okay. Now let's bring Lynda back in and okay, Lynda, you're back in. Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are.
I am here. Yes, of course I am here.
Yes.
We are here.
So am I.
Okay, that's a bit of a technical issues that keep happening, but nevertheless, let's go for it. Bulavinaka.
Bulavinaka Param, namaste, and Faixia to all who are watching in today. Yes, also apologies from my end. These technical difficulties happen when we're all trying to connect now in this virtual world because of COVID. So thank you for bearing with us.
Listen, you wearing a nice, what are you wearing there? It looks pretty nice. It looks very Indian.
Oh, yes. It's my kameez. It's one in my collection. Of course, this week there was a celebration of Eid. So
Bakr. Yes.
In solidarity with those that were celebrating that this week.
Wow. You look fabulous in there. You look very much, part Indian.
Thank you. I mean, I believe I'm a global citizen. I am raceless.
Yep.
So I feel I'm able to just connect with anyone.
Yep.
And, I think that's the way we are now. COVID has made this world a much smaller place that we can connect with anyone, anywhere. And, it's no longer about really what country you're from, but really what issues that we are dealing with right now, which is fighting this COVID crisis.
Yes. Okay, Lynda, let's go. You have the forum. I'll let you introduce your audience who are all tuned up to hear your voice. Let's go with the introduction first, yourself, and then we'll come back to the questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Param. Again, good afternoon to everyone watching in today. I am Lynda Tabuya. I hail from the island of Kandavu here in Fiji, but I have been in Suva all my life. I was educated at the only Chinese school in Suva, Yatsen Primary School. Then I went on to be educated at Andira Kumbao School. Before I then went on to study law at Bond University on the Gold Coast in Australia, which was my first time out of the country, in a very long time. So I did my university at Bond University in Australia. I studied law, and then I came back. I was at the Public Prosecution's Office for a number of years before I then got married, moved to America with my husband. And then we have 6 children, and I joined University of the South Pacific in 2009 to become a lecturer in law, and then I stood in the general elections in 2014 for the People's Democratic Party. Of course, didn't get in at that time, and then in 2018, as the leader for People's Democratic Party. We had a memorandum of understanding with Sodelpa party, and then I came into Sodelpa, and so I contested under the Sodelpa banner in 2018, and of course got in, and I'm now an opposition member of parliament and also the whip.
Look, some people are saying that we don't need an introduction. By the way, this is global, and I personally don't know Lynda. By the way, I know Lynda now, so apologies for those who are saying Lynda needs no introduction. Lynda definitely needs introduction because, hey, if she becomes the Prime Minister of Fiji, she's got to be known, buddy. Okay, Lynda, what's the moral status? How is it going in Fiji there? Tell me a little bit about it before we get into the nitty-gritty of all the potholes. Let's see what's happening. What's the moral status of the community, the people over there at the moment?
I can say right now that the greatest concern of our people on the ground is how to survive this COVID crisis. As you know, as the world knows, Fiji first encountered COVID last year, and we were able to get the first wave under control. And for a year from that time, we were able to have it under control. And, that is credit to the government for ensuring that we were COVID contained during that period until April this year, when there was a breach in quarantine, and then COVID came out into the community. And since then, we have been battling with this crisis. And it's not just a health crisis. Yes, we are dealing with a pandemic. We're dealing with thousands of active cases, and we're also dealing with deaths now, which is almost up to 200. And so the morale on the ground is that there is not enough in the health system anymore to look after all of us. So there is fear. There is also the struggle of hunger, as well as not being able to go to work, be employed at this time. So the ability to put food on the table and to feed our families is also there. So it's not just fear, but it's also the stress of being able to support your family that's on the ground at this time.
So it is not looking very good. Now, what's the number of cases today?
As I understand it, the death cases since yesterday has now almost reached 200, I believe.
Wow!
And that we are looking at over tens of thousands of cases now, really, that are active on the ground. Just yesterday, we had 468 active cases, and so what has happened is that the health system or the health officials have actually stopped home swabbing and community testing. So they've stopped that, as well as told the public, you cannot come into please do not come into the hospital anymore if you are having COVID symptoms. Please just stay at home and self-isolate. So now the people are really left on their own to look after themselves.
Now, there has been some help from Australia and New Zealand. The AUSMED party came. What are they doing in Fiji at the moment? Are they doing anything good?
As I understand it, they are providing the best medical and expertise that they can give, but it is they still have to operate within what the government strategy is to combat COVID. And as I understand it, and we understand it, that the government strategy at the moment is to open up the containment zones, open up the borders, to work towards opening the borders by a certain date, and so just to go hard on the vaccinations. And we're trying to achieve 80% vaccination, I believe, by the 1st of November. So they've given the deadlines that by 1st of August, you have to get your first vaccination.
Which is about 2 weeks away, 1 week or 2 weeks away.
Yes, which is about a week away. You have to get your first vaccination, and then by 1st of November, you've gotten your second vaccination. Otherwise, after that, as you know, the no jab, no job policy will kick in. And
now, Lynda,
you will have to deal with that. Yes.
Lynda, we are only 2 weeks away from 80% jab at the moment. My research shows there's only about 12% of the Fijian population is probably just vaccinated fully.
Yes, that's correct. 12% have only reached the second vaccination.
Yes.
The first vaccination, I understand, is going over 60% now, so it's moving, in that direction. So hopefully we do reach 80% by the 1st of August, or even the 1st of November. That we do. But there's a lot of concerns in terms of how the government has dealt with that, and I can discuss that later.
Now, Lynda, I like the word when you said we are trying to get to the number, we are helping. It's a psychological word which comes from the back of their mind, which tells me as an interviewer that you are treating that as a problem, or as a we, which means it's a government problem, it's your problem, it's the opposition party and the opposition party's problem. Now tell me on that note, is the government asking for any help with the opposition party or any other parties out there? Is there been any talks?
Yes. Well, we have been offering to assist the government, not just on the level of, helping our people, because there is the humanitarian side of this crisis, but also to be able to take out the message that the government has been advocating at this time, and that is get vaccinated. We don't agree with the forced vaccination that is being imposed on our people. We believe it's still an individual choice, whether or not to get vaccinated. We also believe that you shouldn't make the assistance being given by the government conditional upon getting that jab. So no assistance should be conditional, no job should be conditional. None of this should be conditional. How we could have handled this was to work together to persuade our people. And so on that front, I believe that, Frank has failed. He has failed our people because he has not accepted the offer from opposition to work together. And I just recall back to last year when the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, got the opposition on board to take out the message of getting vaccinated. And it becomes now an issue of trust. The people do not trust this leadership anymore to go get vaccinated. And that is what I've seen and heard from our people on the ground who've chosen not to get vaccinated. It's because they don't trust the leadership. Now, it would have been so much better if we had worked together, the opposition and government, as well as the NGOs, the religious leaders, our community leaders, to take the message out and persuade our people to get vaccinated, because this is what's going to save us from this crisis.
I was coming to that point. Are the government actually reaching out to the community leaders? Example I would give, my research shows that there was an Australian in there, Peter Drysdale, who's actually got a little community going, and he's actually vaccinated the whole community by himself. And he made sure that everybody that goes into that community, little household or little community, that they're all vaccinated. And they've got a little guard out there in the little committee of Kokopita or something, that place of the name of the places. So has the government reached or actually passed any messages through any means of communication that, hey, let's get together, or, to the chiefs of the villages, or the churches, or the temples, or the mosque? Has the government reached out to these people that let's get together and convince your community to get vaccinated? Because if there's no 80% vaccination, the borders are not going to open. 40% of the tourists are not going to come. I myself will not come. Because getting vaccinated doesn't mean you will not even get COVID and get sick again. It just means the country will be safe. So are there any messages to the communities out there?
Not any that I have seen, Param. We get the messages from the Prime Minister or the health officials, and the messages are very forceful in nature. They just tell people what to do. They've come up with the fines that are being imposed if you break COVID protocols. They've asked the people now, they send text messages to say, if you see someone breaching protocol, please call this number. So they're getting people to turn people in, and so they're policing people rather than, taking that approach of being consultative, of having consensus, of having dialogue, to talk with our community leaders, to talk with our religious leaders, to talk with our national leaders on all levels, and our NGOs to take the message out consistently and together. And that is one thing at this time in our lives and this time in history in Fiji that we could unite on, and that is this COVID crisis. But it's just not happening at this time. And again, I come back to that the government has failed to engage the communities. What Peter Drysdale has done, and I congratulate him, in Koroipita, he has done it on his own volition. There are villages around the country who have taken it upon themselves to do that themselves because they see the importance of this. But it's few and far between. There's actually quite a big movement of anti-vaxxers in this country who are not who choosing not to be vaccinated because, one, they realize that it is their right not to, and two, because it's an issue of trust. If they trust the leadership, then they would trust the vaccine. And they've said, and I've heard people say, I'm not going to take the vaccine because I just don't trust the government.
So now, in other words, there is no education as far as health is concerned, because the prime concern is the health. The secondary concern is the government. I think at this stage, the concern should be the health and welfare of the community, not the government. The government is running the place, yes, true, but the concern should be of the community. Now, what do you think the people are thinking? That they are not getting the jab because they don't have the trust in the government, or they are just a big lobby of people out there that are advocating, don't get the jab, don't get the jab. And there'll be on the other side of the fence those people that are willing to receive the money and put the food on the table. So,
well, it's a combination. It's a combination of all of that, Param. You know, you're going to have anti-vaxxers who just won't get vaccinated, but you have people who are sitting on the fence deciding whether or not.
But
you
can convince those people, can you?
And they can be convinced, but it takes a united approach, an approach where we can have consensus, we can have consultations, and it starts with leadership. It starts from the top, and I believe that if we work together, if the government just gives out a hand to the opposition, and instead of attacking us all the time on the ideas that we put up, just say to us, look, okay, we're going to work together, we're going to have each of us standing together and giving the message out to our people. We're going to have our community leaders come on board. I mean, it really involves, at this time of a crisis, when there is fear, there is stress, there is hunger, there is anger. We need kind and nurturing leadership. We need the message to change. We need our leaders to come and say, you know, I apologize that deaths have resulted from this crisis. I have never heard the Prime Minister come on TV and apologize for the deaths that are happening.
Why hasn't he come? I mean, if Frank Bainimarama is actually watching this program today with his associates or with his friends or with his team, why hasn't he come out? According to you, he hasn't come out and advocated, but why hasn't he? Is there a reason behind it?
Well, you know, I can only deduce from what Dr. Fong, our chief medical, media officer, has been speaking to the public about during the crisis all along. I can deduce from what he says is that they are just carrying out what the government is telling them to do. So despite whatever advice they have been giving, you know, that the government should do, they need to follow what the government says. So at the end of the day, they have to listen to government. Now, when you look around the world, and what medical professionals have been advising or giving their advice has been to lock down the country so that you can bring the crisis under control. And we had the chance to do that months ago. But we are now at a point where it's just gone loose in the community, that we can't even do community swabs anymore. We can't even have people coming into the hospitals because it risks them from contracting COVID if they display any flu-like symptoms or if they need help. So they're going out now to private doctors so that they don't have the risk of contracting COVID. If our health system has collapsed for our people, then what else do we have to that we can seek help from? Now, I just believe it comes down to leadership, where Frank has failed to take the advice of his medical personnel to do what he could have done to get COVID under control. And it's unfortunate that we have reached the stage where not even the medical professionals and the medical or the health system can cope with what COVID has done to us. And it becomes to that point where when we listen in now to the Prime Minister when he speaks, it's just telling us what to do this, do that. It's still very top-down approach. It's not consulting from the level of the grassroots in the community and working upwards to see how we can do this together.
Could we say yes? It's a one-sided verdict at the moment, based on what you're telling me? Now, I'm not tagging Fiji. I haven't spoken to anybody in Fiji. Does it seem like a one-sided conversation at the moment?
Well, a one-sided conversation in terms of what the government is dishing out to the people, yes. It is a one-sided conversation. We have yet to be engaged. The opposition,
so there's no
the
dialogue.
NGOs, and the community leaders. I mean, this, you can see the evidence of this. 7 NGOs got together and wrote a petition to ask the Attorney General to resign because of how he has failed to handle this COVID crisis, especially the humanitarian side of the crisis, which is to give assistance to our people. You know, they've come out strongly and said, including FRIEND, which is the biggest NGO right now that's out there visible, and they are being supported by the Australian government
Yes.
and the New Zealand government, who have faith in them. Why did the Attorney General come out and attack Friend in Parliament instead of saying, yes, we can work together to provide the humanitarian aid needed for our people? So it's been a collection of all of these decisions that the government has made to get us to this point, where it's not just about us saying, Frank, you have failed. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. We are almost at 200 deaths now. Never has any government in the history of Fiji caused this many deaths from their failed policies of how to handle the COVID crisis.
Now, within the last 4 weeks, the death has increased, the curve has gone up. Has the vaccination, or have people been taking vaccination, has the vaccination increased? Like the number of people taking, are they increasing, or the deaths increasing, but the vaccination's going down? Is that happening?
The vaccinations have increased. Largely, there's been the requirement of the no jab, no job policy. So people are taking that seriously to go and get jabbed. Otherwise, they lose their job. It is a matter of survival at this time for our people, that they know that they need to get jabbed in order to keep their jobs so that they can feed their family to survive at this time. Yes, and also vaccinations have gone up as people have seen, the deaths have increased, and so it is making people come out to get vaccinated.
Now, when I saw that statement, the tagline, no jab, no job, I was taken back a little bit, because no jab, no job could mean, it's got two taglines. It could mean a good thing as well as a bad thing. And if you're looking at it from a humanitarian ground, you could say, come on, Frank, you could have mellowed it up a little bit. And if you're looking at the other side of the government, which is the ruling party, which says, if you don't get a jab, you won't get a job. Now, what's your view on that? What do you think of that statement?
I think it is against the Constitution, straight out. That's the law. You cannot force someone to be jabbed, and that is under the Constitution. It's guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. People should still be given the choice to be vaccinated. This government could have handled it better, and it takes me back to an issue of trust in leadership.
Perhaps it should
when
be
people
it should
fail
be worded.
In the trust in leadership.
Perhaps
yes, I mean, instead of saying you're going to lose your job, certainly you can reward someone for coming forward to get vaccinated. If you get vaccinated, then you receive $100 in your account that will help your family to survive. Same thing for this no jab, no assistance. You get your jab, right? So you get your jab, instead of making it conditional, for those that have gotten the jabs, you get something, a bonus on top of that. So let everyone receive the assistance that the government is giving. But say if you go to a supermarket with $100, then the supermarket themselves will incentivize you to say you get 15% off your grocery bill. You get 10% off your shopping for your basic food items, something. So that can be on top of the assistance that the government should give equally to everyone and should not make conditional. But the government can work with the business community to say, hey, we can get you on board to give this incentive to our people should they get jabbed. Because we're all trying to get back to economic recovery. But where Frank has failed is that he has put economic recovery before dealing with the COVID crisis.
That's what I was actually coming to. That was leading to my next question, which is, if you are voted as, or if you were the Prime Minister of Fiji, would you put the economy first or the health first of the people?
If I was the Prime Minister at this time, right now, I would put the nation into lockdown. I would lock down Viti level because it has gone rife in Viti level. I would lock down Viti level. And what we need, the same government assistance that they're offering right now, is that you put $100 in each of these families, you allocate for each family during this lockdown, and you provide that assistance to them during this lockdown. Lock down the nation for 14 days, get this COVID under control, and get then we talk about economic recovery after that. But we have to deal with the COVID crisis first, because one cannot be dealt with. You cannot get to economic recovery without dealing with the COVID crisis. Because everywhere else, I mean, if you're looking at tourism, no tourist is going to come here if we're still dealing with a high number of deaths and community cases. They're not going to come to Fiji. We won't be able to open the borders. Countries will not open up their borders to us. They will not allow planes to fly in with their passengers.
I'm not
It's
coming.
just too much of a risk. Exactly. You said that yourself, Param, and you are a Fijian at heart. I mean, you are Fijian, yeah?
Yes, of course.
You are from here. Yes, you're 8 miles boy. Your mum is still here. And by the way, how is she doing? Is she well?
She's not doing very well, but she'll be okay. She'll slowly get better.
That's good.
Once again, I've got my grudge against certain things, but that's for the next time.
Yes,
now,
but that's what's happened at this time. So that's what I would do right now. I would put the COVID crisis first. Listen to your medical professionals, to their advice to lock down.
Okay.
Provide enough assistance for our people to take us through the lockdown.
Okay.
And then you've got to get the opposition on board. Work with the opposition.
Yep.
Work with your community and religious leaders. Work with our village leaders. You know what our chiefs are doing? You can go out to your chief and say, I mean, in Sodelpa, we have the network of chiefs that could go out to their people and say, hey, please get vaccinated because it's for our safety. It's about working together. It's about consensus. It's about peace building and consensus building and having a consultative approach, and which will achieve unity in our country. And that's how I would, as the Prime Minister, at this time of crisis, is to bring this country together united to fight this crisis. Because right now, our number one priority is to keep our people safe.
Okay.
And this government, Frank, has failed in achieving that.
For instance, there is a 2 weeks lockdown and the government decides tomorrow to have a 2 weeks lockdown, as you're stating. And, okay, let's go lockdown. We'll get the money. We'll agree with the opposition party. Now, there's an increasing number of possibilities in Fiji, especially people who are hesitant from being vaccinated. How does this weigh up? How does this weigh up as a lockdown and the people not getting vaccinated? Now, it's a very touchy question, and it's a very difficult position. Both the opposition and the position are in the moment because we're dealing with public.
Yes.
And how is that going to be tackled? Say Frank agrees tomorrow. Okay, let's lock down for 2 weeks. There's an anti-lobby that people are reading up social media saying, injections doing this, injections doing that. They're misinformed. There's a lobby out there saying, don't get vaccinated. How is that going to work out?
So it's about education, Param. I believe during that time of a 2 weeks lockdown, the government can then run an awareness program, an education program. While our people are at home, they're stuck at home, they have access to the internet or access to radio and TV. It would be the best time to educate our people about getting vaccinated, because that's still not getting out to our people. There's hardly any education or awareness on the safety of the vaccines, of how many people have recovered from COVID after taking the vaccines, what the statistics are around the world regarding vaccines. I mean, this would be a good time to do it. But at the same time, you are achieving the more important reason for lockdown, and that is to bring the numbers under control, because it's just gone out into the community. It's gone crazy. It's gone out wild. So it would be the best time for us to educate our people about getting vaccinated. And I think that's what we can achieve during the lockdown.
So looking at the budget, the government is in deficit at the moment, of course. Now, to further lock down the country, I anticipate it to be roughly about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, not 2 weeks, which is probably not viable at this stage with that many deaths and that many infection rate. Now, for a country to survive on a complete lockdown for 4 weeks, any idea what sort of a budget deficit that is going to be happening?
Well, we are already in a deficit in this country, in terms of our GDP. And the budget that's just come out, we're looking at a further deficit because our expenses are still way more than the revenue that we are earning. We are earning. So at this time, in terms of how much it would take to look after our people, this is the same. I mean, they're looking at, we've already received about $350 million in assistance. We've got, direct aid assistance from overseas governments. We also have, borrowings by the government also to be able to, to help our people. And also we have our people also accessing the FNPF. So all this time they've been trying to survive on whatever help the government is trying to give, but really the people have been helping themselves because of our FNPF. The largest portion of our self-help is really been
remittance.
about FNPF. But right now it's about saving lives. It's about saving lives through a lockdown rather than money. Now, I'll tell you why putting the economy first has not worked and where Frank has failed.
Yes.
Because they've opened up the borders, the containment zones. So, when you move, the virus moves. And it has been proven because they've opened up the lockdown zones. So the virus has spread out throughout Viti Levu. And now it's gone to Vanua Levu, it's gone to Kandavu, it's now in the islands in Lomai Viti. Now, what has happened, they've also allowed people to go back to work, right? So they've said, employers, if you follow COVID protocols, your employees can come back to work. But what has happened is people are going back to work, and when they contract COVID, they're being sent back home. And this is happening right now. In fact, the lockdown is inevitably happening. Our people are going back home to be self-isolated. The COVID facilities cannot take the numbers anymore. So now it's about home isolation. So people are going to work, they contract COVID, or they are the primary contact of person that has COVID. So they have to go back home and self-isolate. So what you're happening is organizations and businesses are now having to shut down again because these employees have contracted COVID or are a primary contact, and they have to self-isolate. You have organizations and businesses that now have teams. For example, they have 4 teams, and they have to rotate. Team A, B, C, and D. Team A goes in, and if there's a positive case they're a primary contact, the whole team has to go home.
Yes.
And so Team B comes on, and then Team B is there, and then if Team A doesn't recover in 14 days, that happens to them. So this is happening more frequently. More of our employees are going home to self-isolate. So to say that it's about businesses, that it's about opening up the economy so that we can help ourselves, it's failing. Frank has once again failed with this policy to open it up because it's working against us. When you move, the virus moves. People are putting their safety and their lives at risk when they go out to work. And right now, it's more about saving lives than about any money that we're trying to make at this time.
It's quite a matter in Fiji, isn't it? It's actually, extending and expanding at a tremendous rate. And
we're apparently number 1 in the world for number of cases per million people. We shouldn't be proud of that. Since we're number 1 for something, we should not be proud of that, Param.
Very true,
we should be ashamed of that. Yes. And this is again the government who has failed to get this under control by putting the economy first before the safety of our people.
Now, what is Sodelpa doing in respect to that? What are they doing? Are they reaching out to any other of their parties or friends overseas, any government contacts overseas, to apply any sort of a pressure on the current government with their contacts?
Yes, I believe that there are those overseas who have been voicing their opinions about what's going on in Fiji. Now, the government of New Zealand, the Jacinda Ardern had issued a statement to support that during this time of crisis, we need to look at the safety of our people rather than opening up borders and the economy. So she's also stated her opinion on that. But governments, they have to go with the government of the day. Yeah, they'll still offer assistance, which is a good thing for our people, and we welcome that. But what is happening with with us, the opposition and NGOs and community leaders and religious leaders are actually going out into the community to persuade our people to get vaccinated, even separate from what the government is doing. So we're not doing this with the government. We're doing it ourselves to take out that message about persuading people to get vaccinated. Now, the party is doing its own thing, but I myself have taken that stand to persuade our people, please get vaccinated, because it's the only way to save our people. But I cannot force our people, and I believe that's where Frank has failed, to put conditions on the assistance needed at this time to look after our people during this COVID crisis.
Do you think it is Frank, or it is the whole Fiji First Party?
Well, it's a Fiji First Party, but the buck stops with Frank. He is the leader. He is at the helm. And everything rises and falls with leadership. And Frank has failed. Whether it's the Attorney General giving him advice or telling him what to do, or he's the puppet, the buck stops with him. And he needs to answer for that. So he has failed our people by not putting the safety of our people first, but putting the economy first.
Okay. So now moving ahead, what are your thoughts on the budget? You've seen the 325 odd pages of the Fiji budget which just came out. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the budget itself at this time, I think, is not providing enough assistance to reach all our people. And even before this budget, since we locked down in April, the government has failed to provide assistance to all of our people. And this budget is just a continuation of that. It's not enough to help our people. What they've done is basically said, we were going to give this assistance to our people, and that's all and very well and good. But they've made it again conditional. You know, assistance should not be conditional. It should go to everyone, whether you choose to get vaccinated or not. And that comes back to the question of trust. How would our people trust the government if they're putting conditions on what they can or cannot get? Yeah. So the assistance is not going to people. And I'll just share with you, what I've been doing on the ground in terms of my community work to make up for where the government has failed. And so from the start, when we were locked down, our people were locked down. And then also, people lost jobs at that time. And then also they started locking down the communities that had COVID. The government assistance was just not getting to the people in time. So that on time. And you see the protests that happened in a few communities around Fiji, and rightly so, because they were saying, look, we're not protesting because the government isn't giving us assistance necessarily. We are also protesting because you're locking us from being able to go to the shops and get help for ourselves, to be able to go to our jobs and be able to, to earn an income. So you are stopping us from what we need to do, so. And on Tuesday in Parliament, when I give my speech, I'll be elaborating on that. But the help that we've been giving, to hundreds and hundreds of families, the number one, complaint or issue is that they have not received that assistance. It just doesn't reach them. The FNPF assistance, not everyone is on FNPF. You've heard 60,000 of our people have zero balance in their FNPF. 60,000 Fijians have zero balance in their FNPF. So how can they access their own FNPF when they don't have any in it? And they gave a $50 assistance, and then a $90 assistance, and then now with this new budget, they're giving $100 a month. They said $120 a month, but it'll be in a lump sum payment, so you get all of that, so that you can budget yourselves. I mean, our people and the way that we live, if you give a family $1,000, they will prioritize their family needs. It's not about saying, I'm going to control how much I give you because I think you're going to splurge. No, they're going to look after their families because that's the number one concern at this time. So, now, the other thing that's happening is that, and I've been working on, is the maternal health care of our country.
I read the news about people dying.
Yeah, that the budget has failed to address in terms of the mums who have tested positive. And Dr. Fong just came out the other day and said 40% of our mothers who come to give birth test positive with COVID. That is a huge number. And these mums, they have to face the trauma. They don't just come in and after they give birth, they have to go into isolation. They don't go straight back home. And there's also a portion of them that come from outside the containment zones. So they need to come into Nosori, to Makoi, to Suva, to Nandi, to Lautoka to give birth. Or if they give birth at home or in the health centers, they still have to be brought in for proper care. But they are from outside the containment zone. So when they are isolated, they don't have family or any support around them. They're isolated for 14 days. And if they test their babies are positive, they are isolated for a further 14 days. So
True.
we're looking at 28 days in isolation. And the government provides this. They get meals from CWM, but they don't get diapers or milk or formula or bottles or infant clothing or all of those other things that these moms need. I mean, this was not even provided as extra in the budget. So we have frontline workers reaching out to me to say, hey, can you help moms? So as you saw, I did a GoFundMe,
Yes.
fundraiser, which we thank you to all those who donated. We've achieved, we raised $50,000 Fijian, which we will then be doing to provide maternity kits, as well as help for newborn moms, for 300 newborn moms, as well as 300 women in our community that need the help for their infants and toddlers. They are the ones that are missing out. So our most vulnerable people are missing out from this budget. We also did a survey, Param, during this time that we've been providing this help. And from this survey, the household income is shown that each individual is earning about $2 to $3 a day. The highest number of people, so we surveyed over 2,000 people and about 370 households. And with about 6 people average a household, each person is earning only $2 to $3 a day. That was the highest number in that survey. And then the next numbers down was $1 to $2 a day. And the most alarming number was the next number down, which was about 300 people surveyed earned $0. $0. So we're looking at, the cross section of the people that we surveyed were from within the containment zone, were from Wynandoy all the way to Nosori, with those over 2,000 individuals. And, that big portion of about a quarter of them, for 300, it's about that percentage of it, it's about 1/6 of those number of people have zero income. Yes. So what are we doing? What is the government doing? They're failing to get that help out to our people. And this is what we've been doing, is that, so this budget, as much as it has given incentives to the businesses, that's what it's focusing on. It's heavily focused on economic recovery rather than the COVID crisis. Hasn't come out to say, we're going to give a bigger budget to the medical field, to the health ministry to handle the COVID crisis right now. It's more about economic recovery. And again, it comes down to Frank failing us, to them not putting our safety first rather than making money, because we have to make our people safe first before we can focus on economic recovery. And that's all this budget is. It's focusing on economic recovery rather than the COVID crisis. It's not putting the people first. It's putting the very few businesses. And I believe these are the businesses that have been backing Fiji First. They are the 1%ers of this country. They are the donors for Fiji First. These guys, I think Frank, as much as he can say that he's here for the people, he is really here for just very few individuals. And that's what's come through in this budget.
Now, tell me, Lynda, I'll give you 5 pointers. I'm going to ask you for 5 pointers. And you have to give me 5 points as to how, with those 5 points, you can overcome the current situation in Fiji. Go for it. Your best 5 shot.
Number one.
You've got 5 bullets to shoot, dear. Go for it.
Yes. Number one is getting this COVID crisis
Listening,
under
people.
control.
Here we go. Lynda is talking. Number 1 is?
Getting this COVID crisis under control. Number 1. Number 2, putting this country and mainly Vitilevu on lockdown, on a full lockdown for 3 weeks or a month, and number 3, provide that assistance to our people during this lockdown while we get this COVID crisis under control.
Do you think that assistance should be cash or in food?
Well, it has to be food because our people will not be able to go out to buy. But though we can also get supermarkets online to provide that service, so they can purchase online.
Perhaps they should they could take a credit out from the supermarkets, couldn't they?
Yes, they can do that too. I mean, the supermarket's just down the road, so people can go to their friendly neighborhood supermarket, to their corner shop,
4 weeks credit.
Their canteen. Yes, their canteen.
Okay.
And say, look, we can pay you this. So this is, if they're going to top up their M-Pesa, which the government has offered to do, is to put the assistance through M-Pesa, then go to your nearest shop. The nearest shop can then provide within your village or within your community or within your neighborhood to get the groceries out to you. So to me, that's not a problem. Yeah.
Okay.
So number one, lockdown. Number one is getting this COVID crisis under control. Number two,
putting food on the table.
Lockdown by people. Number three, getting this assistance out to our people. Number four, educate our people during that lockdown. Yes.
Yes.
During that month work, and then
educate them to get the vaccine. Yep. Okay.
Yes, and number five is working together, a united approach with the opposition and the NGOs and our community leaders. Get together, work together, talk, sit at the same table. So when the people are looking and you're giving a press conference, you've got the opposition, the NGOs, the church leaders there with you, together giving a message of unity during this time. We have to bring consensus for our people. We have to do this during this crisis. We have to work together. This is what unites us. It's raceless. Yeah, COVID does not discriminate. It's killing all of us across the spectrum. Yeah, it's raceless, it's ageless. Our youngest victim now is a 15-year-old. Yeah, we've got to look at that. So we've got to do that. What have I said? COVID crisis under control. Number one, lockdown. Number two, feed our people. Number three, educate them.
Education.
Number four, bring unity together for all our people. And I think number five is the message to all our voters. Because this government has failed, Frank has failed you and failed unity, vote this government out next year.
Gee, you're on fire, girl. You're on fire, aren't you? Well, let's reiterate that before I do that, but I'd like to take a moment to share my condolences to all those people that have actually lost life, or their families are going through hardship at the moment. Those who have lost their loved ones and those who are currently in process of that, we would like to, express our sincere views to that. And we
thank you for that, Param. I lost my uncle, my dad's younger brother, just last week. Just last week to COVID, and I can't even begin to describe the process that grieving people go through for a loved one. The protocols that are now in place are so harsh that farewelling our dead is now a routine. It's become just a routine. The traditional rites that were associated with it, and just being able to see your loved one, to be able to dress your loved one when you go to the hospital, is no longer there. You can't even go to the hospital anymore. You can't even go to the cemetery anymore in your groups. It's only limited to 10 people at a time to the grave, to the site. But it is quite traumatic for those that are facing death at this time. So thank you for that, condolences. And I share your sentiments, Param, at this time for all those that have died, and just bring it back to the real issue here at hand, and that is the government's policies to deal with this crisis has failed our people and has caused death. This is unprecedented. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the lighter side. What is the story about the potholes, dear?
The story this has been the same for the last 15 years, Param.
Yes.
This government came in, they removed PWD, who used to be decentralized and look after our roads. And this is, in the rural communities, the farm feeder roads, outside of the Suva city.
Yes.
Before we used to have PWD depot here in Suva City. So they would be the local or the council or the municipalities would be looking after the road. Yeah. And it was the same for those outside of Suva City. The PWD would look after the roads, but it all became centralized when they got rid of PWD, and with that was thousands of jobs lost at that time, and brought in FRA, Fiji Roads Authority, to handle our roads. And our roads aren't better than before. We still have the biggest potholes ever. And I just a few days ago, a gentleman posted from Tavakumbu in Lautoka, the size of the potholes. And so in the last sitting of Parliament, when I brought up the issue of the potholes and how PWD used to look after that, and also Suva City Council
Is
had
it
their
still
own depot.
PWD?
No, PWD is gone.
It's gone,
now
isn't it?
FRA.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and even Suva City Council had their own depot that look after the roads. And so, this comes back to, the need for us to have local government elections. This government has removed local government elections. If we are able to elect in our own people, Frank has failed again to put democracy into the hands of our ratepayers. They keep saying, in Nasinu, the number of ratepayers are 11,000, and then you have the number of non-paying ratepayers of thousands more. That's why we can't deliver the proper rubbish services. Well, whose fault is that? You haven't given the ownership to the people to govern their own needs. If you put back elections of municipalities and councils, then the people run their own affairs. The person who's from, McCoy will be able to call, the person that he voted for in his ward and say, hey, look at my road. You come and fix it. Look at the potholes here.
So back in the olden days,
of Kala Praxton, that's how it happened.
Back in the olden days, it used to be like that.
When you say that, if you bring it up in Parliament, that my road has full of potholes, they said, oh, wait. We're one constituency now. This is what Fiji First says in Parliament. We are one constituency now. You can't come here and talk about this particular road. You represent everybody. Well, again, that's failed the people and having specific needs addressed within their constituencies and within their councils and within their own communities and their own suburbs and their own villages and provinces, because we don't have municipal council elections and we don't have PWD anymore that was decentralized. I mean, you look at a place like island like Vanombalavu, they're still waiting for help to come there. They've put private contractors out. This is what FRA has done. Private contractors, so they subcontract. So it helps villages at some level. Some villages are hired to come and do the work, but not all the time. And they wait there to see if someone will come out. So the government to send FRA to go and do the work. So instead of before, you used to have a PWD depot in Vanombalavu, or in Nambowalu, or in Vunisea, or in Levuka, or in in Ngau, or in the different main islands. So you had PWD there to do this work. But again, bringing it back to where Frank has failed our people in terms of having that and having all our jobs being here. FRA came in, the CEOs earned over $500,000 of salary.
Wow.
But I think the CEO has resigned
to
leave again. So those policies have failed our people, and so our people just don't have trust in the leadership anymore. They still have to drive their cars, and they still have to meet that pothole. It's still as big as a Lovo. So nothing has changed.
I have been to many of them
myself. So what
myself.
The Attorney General has said, what the Attorney General has said in Parliament is not true. We still have the big Lovo-sized potholes. And to say that this government has improved the roads more than ever before is it's not true.
Now, dear, what happened? Sorry for calling you dear. I'm just in the heat of the conversation. What happened in the 2018 election? I was very close. It tells us something.
Well, yes. From 2014 to 2018, Fiji First lost 6 seats.
Yes.
To Sodelpa.
Yes.
Because NFP retained 3 seats. Sodelpa gained 6 seats away from Fiji First.
Fiji First.
Yeah.
So what does it tell us?
They lost, and the number of votes for the opposition versus the number of votes by Fiji First came down to a mere 147 votes, Param.
Yes. 147
Even for
votes.
the number of votes, even for the votes that didn't get into Parliament.
Yes.
Yeah, because you've got the 5% threshold.
Yes.
And that's one thing we need to revisit too. If I was the Prime Minister and I was writing, and you have,
it's loud and clear.
They're looking at this, I would say remove that 5% threshold, because it's about representation in Parliament. Let smaller parties compete on an even keel as bigger parties to get a chance to represent their people in Parliament.
It's becoming very close, and with all the
Very
policies and
close.
principles which are coming, it tells us as an outside viewer that something is definitely going to change in the next election. Now, before we touch into the really hot topic, now, I don't know, I decided not to ask this question, but I thought I will because there's a lot of hoo-ha, a lot of noises going on, and I decided not to dig into it. I decided not to investigate as to what Bill 17 is. Now, I was going to go and ring up certain party and, talk to them and get more information before I talk to you. Now, my main question would be to you, kindly, what are the pros, what is Bill 17, number one, and what are the pros and cons of Bill 17?
Okay, thank you. So Bill 17, as you know, is a bill to amend the Itoke Land Trusts Act. So that's bill number 17, yeah? And
Yes.
it only contains one amendment, which is to section 12 of that act.
Yes.
Yeah, section 12 of that act. But, before I even go into dealing with the issues, under
cons.
this act,
Yes.
I just want to say, straight out that I know that our viewers here, who are predominantly, Indians, Indo-Fijians, that are watching in.
I think
Because,
there's quite a big percentage of, we've got the Itoke and Fijian people watching from the
Oh, great.
comments.
Okay,
Yes.
that's great too. That's
Yes.
great too. But I will say this for our non-Itoke watching
Yes.
on this show,
Yep.
to just say that just because we raise Itoke issues, I just want to reassure you that it's never at the expense of our non-Itoke.
Okay.
It's never at the expense of non-Itoke. I just want to reassure you of that, and that this whole issue and the volatility around the issue of Itoke is really about something that we hold dear to our heart. It's about identity. It's about our blood. It's about our home. So I just wanted to put that out, Param, as I discuss this. That I just want to reassure us all. And for me personally, it's always been my goal and my dream to bring unity amongst us, but in very real practical terms, that it's got to be unity in very, very real sense. And I'll explain that later what I mean, because to me, it does take political will to bring unity to this country.
Yes.
It will take political will. So Bill number 17 is just that. It is an amendment to this particular section 12 of the Act, which states that the consent of the Itoke Lands Trust Board needs to be sought when you're dealing with two things: the alienation of land, Itoke land, and the dealings of Itoke land. Yeah, so under Section 12. Alienation of Itoke land, of course, is either by sale or transfer or sublease. And then, of course, the dealings is about mortgages and caveats and things like that. Well, I don't really want to get too much more into the technicalities of the amendment. But one thing that I do want to say that is being said by the government is the pros of this particular bill is that it's going to make business easier. So once again, putting economic recovery and economic issues first before our people. So they say that it's for ease of business, that if you remove the need to get the consent of TLTB to get a mortgage, then lessees or developers can just go straight to the bank. They don't have to come to TLTB because it takes days and weeks and months, and the developers or the lessees are waiting for that consent. So that's what they see as the pros of this act. That's what the government is saying. Now, however, this is overshadowed by what is wrong fundamentally with this bill. And that is the government at no point in time consulted the landowners on this bill, on this change. So this was just done arbitrarily by the Attorney General and by Frank to bring this to Parliament to be passed, but there's been no consultation with TLTB and the landowners. And that's really what we are challenging at this time. Why have you not consulted us on this? If it affects us, Why haven't you consulted? That's the
Now,
trust
Lynda,
that was put to an LTB, to the TLTB from 1940.
Yes,
It's
yes.
being held in trust by TLTB, our Tokay lands,
Yes.
for the landowner. So why
Yes.
not consult us? The result might be the same, Param, at the end
Yes.
of this.
Yes.
It
Yes.
may very well be okay. We agree with it, but with some, with some conditions or with some caveats or some, conditions. Say maybe your standing operating procedures in TLTB need to be changed or need to be tightened. Yeah, maybe. But look, it just was not consulted.
It was not
And
consulted.
that's where we feel. And that contributes to mistrust.
Okay.
Lack of knowledge contributes to mistrust, and with mistrust, opposition, and with opposition, then it's going to get louder and louder, and they will oppose this. And that, at this point in time, we just were not asked. As simple as that. The landowners who are a stakeholder in this act, who are a party to an agreement, to a lease, should have been consulted. So Frank has failed the Tokay landowners. He has failed the landowners by not coming to talk to them.
Is the government obligated to talk to them?
Obligated to talk to them in terms of bringing this bill?
Yes.
Okay. The government is obligated to publicly consult on any bill it brings before the House. Okay. That's the parliament process.
Okay.
They should consult the people. It actually should be consulted first. I mean, this is what happened to the police bill, and of course it had big opposition, and the Prime Minister withdrew it because even though they were trying to bring up consultation, whatever was contained in it, people opposed it. So Frank withdrew it at that point. But for this one, it is not consulted or not. They have a duty to consult.
True.
I mean, it's like this, Param, right? If you own a piece of land and I lease it to someone, and you're a tenant on my land, even if it's freehold.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Even if it's freehold, you go to the bank to get a mortgage on that land, you have to get my permission first. As the landowner, don't you? I mean, the lease is between you and me. You're sitting on my land. You're sitting on my land as a tenant, right? And you go and get a mortgage on my freehold land. You have to seek permission from me, because how can you encumber my land legally with a mortgage to the bank?
At the moment,
this is the same thing.
Yes. You got hit it up there, lady.
Yes.
So,
it's basic land law. It's basic property law and property rights of an individual. It's the same thing for Itoke. And we own this communally. So because we own this communally, the trust has been put to TLTB as a one-stop shop. Yes. One voice for the landowners to be able to deal with the lessee.
Okay.
Now, removing this consent is basically removing the voice, the ability for the landowners to protect their legal interest.
Yes. So at the moment
Frank has failed the Itoke landowners.
So at the moment there's Fiji First has got 27 powers in the parliament. True?
Yes.
And there's no Senate, obviously.
Yes.
Obviously, as before, the Senate used to vote. And now...
Correct.
27 against 25 for that matter, or 24 for that matter.
24, yes.
Do you think you can hammer in so that you can pull a little bit out of the other side and get on top of this bill?
Look, it is my hope, Param. I can always hope. Not once in the time that I've been in Parliament has the government ever, done a conscience vote. And the last time that happened by Dr. Neil Sharma, he was kicked out of Parliament. He was kicked out of the party. So they know what they have at risk. So I can only hope that one of the Fiji First, members that are watching this or looking at this huge outroar and outcry will actually say, we need to withdraw this bill and we need to take it back to the people, the landowners. That's all we're asking for.
Oh, discuss it.
Withdraw the bill. Yes, withdraw the bill, Attorney General, since he brought it into Parliament and it's now tabled there.
Okay.
It's their job. It's the government's job to talk to everyone. That's what a good government does. And again, the government has failed to do this. And by the way, it's 23 now without Niko Nowaikula because he's been removed from Parliament. Yes.
So you've got 3 from the NFP. 3 from
We've
the
got the 3
NFP
from
and 21.
NFP and 20
23.
Sodelpa.
Yes,
So there's
20.
23 of us. Now, again, because I can only hope that Fiji First will do this. They've never done this in the time I'm there.
Yes.
I am just working hard right now. I'm more concerned with using my parliamentary vote to talk directly to the public.
Yes.
To show their protest, to show their outcry. This is more important at this time, that all our people watching in use your voice to oppose the bill and to say, take it back to our people. Consult us, because nothing about us without us.
Now,
and this is where Frank and AG have failed. They need to withdraw this bill and take it back to us, take it back to the landowners.
Now, I can see a lot of Indians making a lot of noises in respect to this bill. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because
I don't know what the statistics are, Param.
Because
I don't know what the statistics are.
Yeah, because of them leasing a lot of land from the ITOK. And obviously it's a very touchy matter. And who is right and who is wrong is not for me to decide, but the people to decide, the people of Fiji to decide. And of course, you've got the 23 plus 27 people who are going to sit in there and touch onto a soft spot. And before it becomes a big disaster. That's what I can see as from an outsider. That is going to be a big decider and a big issue in coming years. Now, I don't run the government, so I don't know. I can't see what's happening, but I can always see what is the positive and what is the negative. And although I may have, fired some wrong questions today, according to the poll and according to the expertise over there, but I'm trying to get the message out there loud and clear to educate people. Now, tell me something. When you guys vote in the parliament, do you have to put a name or is it unanimous? Nobody knows who's voting who.
The speaker has changed the rules where he has allowed for vote by acclamation.
Okay.
So it's the yay or nay.
Okay.
I've actually written to the speaker on behalf of the opposition, a united opposition, NFP and Sodelpa, asking the speaker to please show the vote. So allow vote by division. So you can actually show who has voted for what. So to put your name on it.
Okay.
Because they've been doing just by acclamation. And even if we're louder, he'll still, because he knows the numbers in parliament. But look, what you stated earlier is very important about, what to do at this time. But that's what consultation is about. The government needs to talk to its people, and we need to talk to each other. So that's the message that's coming from landowners. I know that Indians are opposing this whole protest about this bill, but I'll tell you who I'm speaking for, Param. I'm telling you who I'm speaking for at this time, and this is even not about race.
I've got a question over there.
You have
before you go ahead. As an outsider, I think, people could get me wrong out there, because as soon as this bill gets passed, for example, as an outsider, a lot of investors may be coming into the country to invest into the country. So economy-wise, probably the government is thinking that, okay, let's sell a bit of a land for the milk production, or a little bit big factory by the Chinese or the American. That's probably the way things are going or heading by the look of way the things are functioning in overseas countries. So there could be a possibility. I don't know. I'm just only throwing things out there as to what is happening outside in here. So the more the country keeps to itself, the better it is, the less the deficit, the more they use the local production, the more they use the local money, the better it is.
Look, again, you might be right, Param. And by the way, you're not an outsider. You belong in Fiji as much as everyone else across Fiji home.
Yes.
That may be very well, but emotions are running high right now because we just have not been heard. The government has not come to the landowners to speak to us. And that's the point of this protest that's happening right now against Bill 17. Just talk to us. And a government has a duty, a responsibility to talk to its people.
So that's happening in the parliament on Monday?
Before it brings a law.
That's happening
It is in this coming week. It's possibly on Thursday or Friday.
How long is it going to go
It's now
debated
put
for?
in as a consequential bill.
Okay.
It's an hour. Only an hour is given. So that's what the government's done. They've brought it in under the Standing Order 51, which is often abused by this government to just fast-track bills through the House. And yes, we may understand that consequential bills, like maybe changes to taxes or some sort of bills that are consequential to the budget, make sense. But when it comes to a bill like this that is too important to just pass through Standing Order 51, just to be given a 1 hour debate, not even taken out to be consulted amongst the stakeholders, the other party to any lease agreement, which is the lessor, which is TLTB, the landowners. It's too important to pass it up. It's too important to go through the Parliamentary Standing Committee, which goes through the rigorous process of vetting and scrutinizing bills that come before the House. This is being abused here, and the government just needs to withdraw, because with all of that, there can be, if there's economic development that is needed, and of course, we hear you, those who are criticizing our protest of this. We want to hear you, but this is where the consultation process will bring in all these opinions. So just please withdraw the bill, Frank. Please withdraw the bill, AG, since you're the one that tabled it before the House. Take it back to the people to consult, including our business community, including all those who are criticizing the protest of it, including absolutely we must.
So what you're saying is table it. What you're saying is table it before it goes into the firing line.
No, withdraw it from the House and from next week. What's the rush? Withdraw it from next week's sitting. Take it out for consultation. Take it out and get the permission or get the consultation of our landowners. They have failed to do this. And again, I come back to unity and trust. Param, how are you going to achieve unity in this country if you continue to not talk to the people, if you continue to dictate and do things without talking to the people? Yes, bill number 17 is to do with landowners who are Itoke, which is the native land, and lessees who are Itoke and non-Itoke. Yeah, it involves Tauke too. Itoke lessees are also there, and there are Itoke lessees even till today. Those are trying to get a native lease and have to wait. So the frustration is shared by everyone, who are at the table here. And it's not just about race. This is not just what Indo-Fijians go through in this country who are lessees. It's about everyone who are lessees that are having to deal with a native lease, because majority of our land is native title. But it's about the consultation. It's about removing all these cultural misunderstandings that we have. We can achieve unity this way, Param. Just like I was saying, we can achieve unity in the very real sense by dealing with this COVID crisis. So it brings me back to political will. Everything rises and falls with leadership. It will take political will to unite this country, to get all our communities together, because we can talk about equality. And this government has, over the last number of years, made us all, called us all Fijians under the Constitution. That's all very well and good. But how does it still practically translate on the ground? We haven't achieved unity, greater unity than from before. It's still the same. We are still, we're still having our political leaders and Frank, as the Prime Minister, still bringing up issues that divide us communities. And it's not just about land, it's also about, the status of our social well-being. It's about bread and butter issues. It still divides us, because our people still look up and see that the 1%ers of this country are predominantly Indo-Fijian. Why have that misunderstanding? They may have very valid concerns. And yes, it may be economically more viable to remove some of the red taping that goes on in TLTB. It may be very well that they need to look at the standard operating procedures.
Or probably an audit.
But I'll tell you this. Yeah, but I'll tell you this. In defense of TLTB, between TLTB and the Lands Department and the Housing Authority, where people have to deal with consent,
yes,
TLTB is the most efficient. They're the most efficient. I mean, their days maybe a week or so longer, but months? No, that's not true. I mean, I challenge that, because TLTB themselves will say, no, we are decentralized. That's why we are the most efficient, because we are decentralized. Housing Authority and Lands Department are centralized. So a lot of things are held up there. So why not the ministries do a better job? Why not the Ministry of Local Government do a better job with their internal procedures? Why not the Lands Department do the better job with their procedures? Why not the Ministry for ETO Affairs do a better job with their standard operating procedures? But to change the law and remove this consent, which fundamentally belongs to the Itoke landowners and only they can give, to me, that is wrong. They need to withdraw this bill and take it out for consultation, because it's only through consultation and consensus that we will be able to achieve unity and peace and greater understanding.
Now, as any political leader, they have so much time in the party. They have so much time at withstanding. Nothing is for forever. Being Frank or being any other politician leader in power today or tomorrow, they have a limited time. Time comes when things roll out for them. Next election could be a different story. Now, if Frank wants to keep his party in parliament, as an observer, I see both parties need to have some young dialogues in there, young people into the party. Educate the young people of Fiji, advocate them, acknowledge them, bring them on board, build a better Fiji, not just the party in position. The opposition party should also enroll, I acknowledge them to enroll, young human beings. There are smart people out there, not just Indians, not just Fijians, Chinese, smart people out there. Look the way Australia is working at the moment. Look at the way New Zealand is working at the moment. Let's open our eyes. It's time. Things need to change. To both parties, I say. Bring in the young guns. Because you know what? If a superpower comes, Fiji's gone. That's what I would have to say.
Param, that is one thing that I commend the Fiji First government for. That, their makeup and the ministers and those that are in there have the different, communities represented. That is a challenge for an opposition party like Sodelpa.
Yes.
We do need to bring in, more young people, but we do need to bring in of different ethnic communities. Indian, Ratuman, Chinese, Kailama. We've got to bring them in so that we can aptly represent all different race communities in our country. And that is a challenge for our leader. And that is a challenge that I've been constantly getting Sodelpa to do so, to bring in more young people. You're absolutely right. Our youth are the future, and, which is why, I bring in youth of all races and help to develop them in the work that I do. My community work and my team around me are made up of all different races and different communities. And I love having them on board, because I have different representations from different communities working with me. And so I will not hesitate to go out into a community and engage a coordinator from there who is, or a counselor, an advisory counselor, or someone that Turani Koro, or a youth leader that is non-Itoke. Because to me, that is to build a better Fiji. We have to look at each other, that we are citizens of this country, that we are human beings.
We are not
of a different
We're known
race
for hugging each other. We're known
community.
for drinking from the same billow. We're known for eating from the same plates.
But that's what it is, Param. It comes down again to political will. Because, I mentioned this again, that I've seen the experience I've seen overseas when I visit.
Yes.
Wow, the communities get on so well together. When you have an event, it's so multiracial. When you have a Fiji community event organized overseas, it's so multiracial. Even the organizing committee is multiracial. Even those that are attending and putting up stalls there are multiracial. It's so beautiful. The music you play is so multiracial. Why isn't this happening in this country for government to prioritize the need to not just say we are Fijians, but to actually translate that in real life, that it's not just a political will, that it is a dream. It is a vision to bring unity in a very real sense. And that is in the terms of how we assist our people. Yeah, because it doesn't discriminate. Bread and butter issues every day. Hunger is hunger, and it is experienced by everyone. When it comes to talking and consulting with our people, it shouldn't discriminate. Talk to everyone. Talk to everyone, no matter what your class or your race or the color of your skin or where you've achieved in life. You've got to consult everyone. And especially now when we're supposed to put our country's people number one right now, we're supposed to keep our people safe. COVID does not discriminate.
Now,
and
Lynda,
this has become an issue that we need to unite on, and it starts with leadership. We need to have a leadership that the people can trust, that the people can see, are talking to them, are engaging them, are consulting them, building consensus, engaging with all members of the community, with all groups, with all communities to bring us together. And that's what's going to happen. That's what needs to happen. And for me, Param, that is my dream, that's going to be the Fiji that we have.
Now, both you and the opposition party, Frank or any other people, Qayyum, yourself, at the end of the day, you're all human beings. You're politicians in one sense. You bombard at each other, you say words, you throw words. It's all for the betterment of the country. At the end of the day, everybody is a human being at the end of the day. And I would just like to say that, think from that perspective, that we are all humans. Humans come together when there's countries in dire straits. And I acknowledge and urge the people of Fiji to get together. That at the end of the day, we are not politicians. We would like to swear at each other. I can see in forum, everybody's gunning at each other. But hey, come on. At the end of the day, you're a human being before you become a politician. It's a very important aspect of life that we can blame this government, we can blame the government. Now, Lynda, I'd like to ask you, you've been in Parliament for a while now. Just tell me something about the Fiji First Party. What have they done good so far for the country for the last so many years? Any good things have they done that you may be able to shed some lights apart from the potholes?
Well, for the last 15 years, the first 8 years of that was, they were unelected. So it was under a military regime. And then, of course, in the last 7 years, since 2014, they have been elected and been in Parliament. What has the Fiji First government done that is good? Yes, I believe it is the free education that they've given to every child. So education has become free, and I commend them for that, because then every kid has an opportunity to attend school without having to pay school fees. And that for me has become a real benefit, not just for my family, but to the greater community, where I see that parents don't even have to deal with providing this free education. And for me, moving forward, if I ever am to become the Prime Minister of this country or to lead the country in times to come, I would retain that. Because I believe every child should have an opportunity. No child should be left behind. So I commend the Fiji First government for that, for doing that. The other thing that I think that this government has done well is the empowerment of women in leadership. You've seen more female ministers more than ever. And I commend my colleagues on the other side of the house, our female ministers who hold really big portfolios that they have to manage. I commend Rosie and Pramila, Mere, Selai, and all that. Those three ministers that are holding big portfolios, and they work so hard, in their portfolios, and I commend them. But you see more women in leadership under this government, including boards and statutory authorities, as well as government ministries. Those are good things, and I would like to see more women in leadership. So it speaks to me. And as a woman, I'm very grateful to that. They brought in the, Domestic Violence Act, which now protects women. They also brought in the Child Welfare Act, which protects children. And these are some of the things that I advocate for. So protection of women and children. And so I would continue this too. I would like to see more women in leadership because just like you said, at the end of the day, we are human beings. We are fathers, we are mothers, we are daughters and sons. We are friends, we are neighbors, and I grew up, my mom and dad, though we were raised in a very Tauke, dominated settlement, just right here in Mokanisila in Kalambu, close to where you grew up, Param.
Yes.
I grew up there. I grew up in poverty in that informal settlement. But I was, my mom took us to Hindi movies. I know so many.
I like the way you
Hindi
pronounce
movies.
Hindi movies. I like the way you pronounce it, Hindi.
Well, my favorite movie still is Ye Vaad Raha,
Okay.
And I love the songs there with Poonam and Rishi Kapoor. They're still some of my favorite actors, classic. But I was raised that way because you know what my mom said to me? There's such good movies, and I would sit in a Hindi movie and cry and not even know what they were talking about. But the emotions were communicated to me. And my father had very dear friends who were, in the Fijians that we went to their homes and celebrated, life with and spent life with. But what I'm saying is that we are human beings. We do this on a day-to-day basis.
And we make mistakes. We make mistakes. Remember that as well.
And we do make mistakes too.
Yep.
We do make mistakes, and so, but we forgive and we work together as a community. So I guess what I want to communicate is that at this point in time is that as human beings, as fathers and mothers, we've got to look at talking to each other. Just like any family, communication is key. So this government has not communicated with the fathers and the mothers and the daughters and the sons of this country so that we can work together, which is the opposition, the NGOs, the community leaders, the religious leaders. Talk to us so that we can bring this crisis under control, so that we can get through this crisis together at this time. And also, having women leadership, I see running a country like running a family. You got to have father, well, not all the time, but father and mother are in a family. Together, they make decisions together. So if you're going to have men in leadership, bring the women in for that perspective. So
well, the women is already there, and I think
you can more women in leadership
yes.
together to be able to take our country forward. So that's why I think that was one thing that Fiji First has been doing good, but do better, build on that and have more women in leadership.
It's lovely talking to you, Lynda. And I would like to apologize if I had made any mistakes in that. We all human beings, we make mistakes.
Absolutely not, Param. Thank you so much for
when and
today.
if you do become a prime minister, don't forget me. I will come and knock on your door.
Param, I always say this when people say to me,
yes,
you should be prime minister. Number one, I will just fall back on my very strong spiritual foundation in that if it's God's will,
yes.
Yeah? Inshallah. If it's God's will, let His will be done.
Yes.
And secondly, for me, being here and doing what I do, this is the best part of my job, is looking after our people. Yeah, even if I don't become prime minister of this country, I'm not the prime minister now at this point in time. I want to be able to be doing my best for our people. And that's my challenge to all our members of parliament, to all representatives of the people, including the government and in opposition. Do your best now for the people. Don't wait till you become prime minister. Don't wait till you become, a minister in government. Don't wait till you hold the purse strings. Yes, when you're the prime minister, then you are able to be in a position of authority to carry out what you can for the people. But don't wait till then. Do it now, and that's my challenge to the government, because I believe that Frank has failed the people and that it's an issue of trust. And where we are right now is because of that lack of trust amongst our people. But any leader moving forward today must keep nurturing that trust, keep on giving the message of hope and unity, and how the government, keep on calling the government to account of how things should be done better and how we can have this country get to a point where we are united as one people, as one country, and as human beings.
Yes. Look, it's been wonderful talking to you. And of course, Frank, if you're watching this program, do get in touch with me. It's unfortunate that some things have to come out, Lynda. And I always love hearing people's views. And I never make decisions on people's views because I think it's their version. And they've got full right to explore their version. Pros and cons, and of course, it's the people who vote and people who put others in power. And I wish you good luck in the forthcoming election.
Thank you, Param. I just wanna wrap up and say, even for all the good things that that the government has done, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yes.
That's why I'm here, and I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna keep going. But thank you very much, everyone. Vinaka Vakalevu, Danebad Faixia, and have a blessed week.
It looks like I got to bring a few cartons of wine and have a little get together with the Sodelpa and the NFP and the Fiji First Party and have a little talk.
Well, for me it would be juice or a nice hot cuppa. Yes.
Okay.
But yes, it would be something. And for those of you watching from Sydney, you can see my nuns in a scrum there at the back.
Okay.
So all our Sydney people watching in.
Yes. Of course.
I love visiting Sydney, and I hope to be there one day soon. But first, we've got to prioritize our people and keep them safe. So
great. And before we sign off, a little message to your loved ones, and especially those loved ones currently that are suffering with COVID. Your little last message before we sign off, Lynda.
To all our loved ones and our people during this time, please stay calm and just never give up hope. Never give up hope. Continue to fast and pray for our beautiful country. Continue to help those around you that are in need. And at this time, just stay together as a family. Keep your unit strong, because only together and united, we will come out of this stronger. We will beat COVID. But we must stand together, united and strong in order to do this.
All the best, and Vinaka Vakalevu, you take care. Go for it, lady.
Thank you, Param.
All the best.
Thank you very much. Vinaka. Model.
So those who are watching this feed, a big Vinaka Vakalevu to those who have joined. Please do share our feed amongst your family and friends. We are here to help each other, and of course we will be pulling each other's legs, and whatever happens we blame and we do things. Look, it's a democratic country. Why not? You got to push, you got to pull, you got a cause and an effect. So message to everybody, and I hope you've taken some sort of a message from this interview, from this live stream. Please do share our feed and have a good, safe journey. Stay safe in Fiji especially. Keep your loved ones free, safe. Obey the COVID rules and follow the regulations of the government, which is currently in power. And all the best. Vinaka Vakalevu and Nisa More.